Yes! Happy Halloween, everyone! Yes! Honestly, I can care less about Halloween. No, I haven't celebrated Halloween in a long time, but it is the NFL trade deadline. Not as many trades as I thought. Some interesting ones. The only one I'm not going to break down is there was a backup defensive tackle for the Eagles, got sent over to Atlanta. Great. 1 minute and 30 seconds into the show, and Grady Jarrett's injured, so they made a trade. Not something I really, what do you want? I mean, they've used first round picks on defensive tackles the last 2 years, the Eagles, so getting rid of some depth, getting an extra draft pick just makes sense. What do you think about the Vikings trading for Dobbs? I think it was a bad move, man. Let me ask you this here, Jason. Who's it a bad move for? We'll start off with that one, actually. It's a great one. I think it's a bad move. Arizona, and the one thing I didn't do is, but I have it right here, is I'm looking up Arizona's draft picks right now. So Arizona, as of today, right now, has the 2nd, the 10th, the 34th, the 66th, the 74th, the 77th, the 98th picks in the draft, and they still have 2 picks in the 5th round and 2 picks in the 7th round. So that's kind of what Arizona's doing. But I don't like the move. I mean, you have a guy that was playing well. Yeah, you're going to go ahead and look at Clayton Tune, and great. No problem. Kyler Murray looks like he may come back and play this year. Okay, but why not keep him around? For Minnesota, it doesn't really make a lot of sense either. You got he's not going to really be. I mean, keep in mind he came into Tennessee right off the street and played better than Malik Willis did. A couple came in. I think he was there for like maybe 10 days or something. Got a start. He played better than Malik Willis. Great. But is he really coming in and playing? And what's the end game? I mean, are you looking at your team and going, hey, we got it? The move that would have made a lot more sense if I was the Vikings would have been Dalvin Cook. Bring him back. That's what I would have done. By the way, of all the players that weren't traded, Dalvin Cook, I didn't get that at all. And I know what the Jets are thinking. Hey, Breece Hall goes down, we just didn't put Dalvin Cook. But that's something that I would have done if I was the Jets. I would have moved them, and then things happen. So I didn't. By the way, it could be a 7th. It's right now. It's a 7th. Could be a 6. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, Jason. It didn't make a lot of sense. If you're a guy that if you're looking at Minnesota and you're like, hey, look, we got everything else in play, which you don't. I would have. Why not Malik Willis or Tannehill? Or honestly, I would have called up somebody like Cam Newton. I mean, I didn't get that. I didn't get it. It doesn't make any sense for Arizona, in my opinion. It doesn't really make any sense for Minnesota. I didn't like the move. Happy Halloween, YouTube. Funk! Oh, man! I'm going to listen in the morning, and DPJ is definitely an MJ. Okay, so God's my boy Funk. I love Funk. So what he says, DPJ, if you don't know who he's talking about, Donovan Peoples-Jones was acquired in a move I really didn't see coming. My boy, One Pride, hopefully he comes on a little later today. He was adamant Detroit's going to get an edge rusher. And I'm like, I really don't see it. I really think Detroit's just going to stand pat, not really do anything. This is, by the way, in case you're not aware, Funk, this is for a 2025, not even this year. It's 2 years down the line. And it's a 6th round pick. It's not much, and And, it's a guy who, by the way, if you're not familiar, Donovan Peoples-Jones was the number one receiver coming out of high school. He was above Jerry Jeudy. The other guy, he's in jail right now. The Raiders picked 11th. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I mean, he was even above CD Lamb. So I mean, the potential is off the charts. He did return punts. I don't think he still does it, but he's a guy who can contribute on special teams. The number one thing when I first saw this, though, is that, and by the way, he says it's definitely a Marvin Jones replacement. And here's the drill. The one thing about this trade that really kind of bugged me is that you traded up for Jameson Williams, and he's still not even the number 2 guy yet. Laporta is playing fantastic. It's kind of funny. I didn't realize it, but both Laporta and Michael Mayer have 87. Both teams gave those tight ends 87. And I thought that was smart. Laporta is turning into wide receiver number 2. And by the way, he's a tight end in name only. But it makes the Jameson Williams trade up just the one with. The one thing I will say is that I know Brad Holmes is the GM, but the way Detroit has built their team up, it reminds me a lot of how Kansas City was with John Dorsey. John Dorsey was the general manager in Kansas City when Andy Reid came in, and he was instrumental in turning that team around. So he's not the assistant general manager. He has some title, but he has quite a bit involvement in the Detroit Lions organization. And those late round draft picks, Tyreek Hill was a 5th round draft pick by Dorsey. We had a 6th round pick, Dr. Tardif, it was LDT. He ended up starting for several years. We got rid of him and replaced him with another 6th round draft pick. But it kind of makes the Jameson Williams trade. I'll give you the negative. The positive is you got a guy who could potentially be your wide receiver number 2, because Laporta is really going to be your number 2 guy. Going forward, you're going to have Amon-Ra. You're going to have Laporta. And then, Jameson. I honestly, if you can make things work, if he ends up playing up to that potential, it wouldn't surprise me if you move Jameson Williams this offseason. And when I say this offseason, I'm talking March. Wouldn't surprise me. But I like it, man. God damn, it's good to see you, Funk. Jason, so he's a Vikings fan. Let's just start. I by the way, I actually watched Hall play at BYU. Now, keep in mind, he comes on. He replaced Zach Wilson, who's with the Jets, the number 2 pick overall in the draft. So he's not that type of guy. So when I watched him at BYU, I'm like, this isn't a bad guy, but he's not Zach Wilson. And there's an old phrase when you do scouting, it's you don't scout the helmet, and you try to just look at the player, forget the uniform. But it's kind of hard when you see a guy that was built up as much as Zach Wilson was at BYU to see his replacement. But his replacement's a really good player. And the thing is with Minnesota is that you're going to get Justin Jefferson back. I'm not sure when. Jordan Addison, almost forgot his name. Jordan Addison's looking good. TJ Hawkinson's looking good. The defense is getting better. Yeah, why not? Denver Gator! Washington having a fire. Yeah, so I was looking through there. I was trying to see who they have left. Now, keep in mind what they did is that they have their 2 defensive tackles. Both of them they gave big-time contracts to. So I knew they wouldn't give it to Sweat and Young. And when they didn't pick up Young's 5th-year deal, I was kind of like, okay, well, he's probably going to move sooner or later. But I really thought that they were going to get Sweat. I really, really thought that they were going to sign Sweat. So I was really surprised about that. By the way, listen to this here. Washington, I'm going to go over all the trades in a little more detail, but Washington, as of right now today, now keep in mind Washington's 3-5. Okay, so things can change quite a bit. But as of right now, they have the 11th pick in the draft, the 35th pick in the draft, the 43rd pick in the draft, the 75th, 93rd, and 108. So 7 out of the first 108. And that do you use some of those picks? Maybe plus a number 1, try to get that quarterback. Riggs. Yeah, that's the guy I was trying to think of. Cam Newton would have made more sense in my opinion, because I mean that's a guy that you could use in a variety of different ways. Why not Malik Willis? I mean, I don't get me wrong. I mean, Joshua Dobbs in a couple weeks may be a better option, but if I'm Minnesota, I really don't want to give up draft picks because this is my opinion. As far as Minnesota's concerned, I really think that this is this is the year to take a quarterback. It's this year, and you're not going to win that division. You're not going to do much in the playoffs, but you're building everything else. Why not? Why give up a draft pick when you're probably going to have to give up draft picks for a quarterback? Denver Gator says, "Hey, did you guys hear a certain team from Denver won on Sunday?" Denver Gator, it's the first time since 2015. Little fun fact. So Denver won something like 12 straight against Kansas City, and the first time they lost was at Mile High. Manning got benched after he set like the all-time NFL passing yardage. I think it's yardage record. Denver won the Super Bowl, so that's kind of what we're both wanting. Denver Gator is a Chiefs Super Bowl. That's what we're looking forward to. Man, it's good seeing you, brother. Lions are they're a good team. It's kind of funny. I even with the loss, I think Kansas City's got the West, Lions got the North, Jags got the South. So, what's up though, Dan? I agree with your. That didn't make any sense, man. I mean. What are you doing if you're Minnesota? Seriously, what are you doing if you're Minnesota? Oh, now we got a chance for a Super Bowl. I mean, you really, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because if I'm Minnesota, I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, the only thing I could think of is like, I mean, Cousins can't come back. You weren't a Super Bowl ready team anyway. It just didn't make a lot of sense. If I'm Minnesota, I'm having a fire sale because I want to draft a quarterback. The only bright spot is Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent. And now you're kind of like, hey, listen, you're 36, you got that torn Achilles. Why don't you sign this incentive-laden contract? And that's it. That's the only thing I can think of. Perry says, yeah, I am. I'm still not 100%. My chest feels a little tight, but Yeah, I got coffee and I got water here, but yeah, I'm a little better. I'm still not 100% on cough here. But I'm still not 100%. But man, thanks for the love, man. I appreciate it. How about Chase Young going to the Niners? That I was going to go in order, but we're gonna I do want to talk about that. I do want to talk about that because Washington's loaded with draft capital, and we're going to talk about how it goes to San Francisco. We're going to talk about that. Oh, my God. I got the talent. Gooch! You thought you were having this love without the talent. Man, if you haven't yet, make sure you check out my picks video. I know Keith did. Keith is grateful. So told everybody that our draft picks are great for us. Yeah, you had a great draft. That's kind of the one negative is that I like those late round draft picks because some of them pan out. So the doctor, Canada College. He started for several years, and when he went to Canada to help with COVID, and we replaced him with the 6th round pick Trey Smith, and that's kind of an interesting story because the only reason Trey Smith lasted 6 rounds was a medical issue, even though he was cleared. Most teams, Chiefs just took a flyer, and he's a guy that I hope can stick around in Kansas City. But yeah, Gibbs went off last night, but if Gibbs has that many touches, he's not going to last. I mean, that's the only negative is that he had that game kind of wrapped up, man. I would like seeing Craig Reynolds get a few more touches, but yeah. And by the way, like what I want is that if you're the Lions, by the way, in case you're not aware, the Lions have one team on their schedule with a winning record, and that's Dallas. That's second to last game of the season. That's it. And I want to keep Gibbs fresh for that game and the playoffs. I don't want him touching the ball. I mean, what do you have? I think 24 carries, I think 28 touches. I don't want him doing that against the Raiders. One pride. By the way, I have I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I do have my power rankings. And by the way, me and One Pride been DMing each other. By the way, all my social media is below. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Hit me up, and One Pride shares with me other stuff besides football, but basically all my social media is football. But anyway, he has his power rankings, and I was joking around with him. I said, if the Lions aren't one, then it's a bullshit rating, and luckily he gets them, fucking with them. But yeah, lots of people liked the video, and I think you did too. I did something. I put a little more effort into it. I didn't just put the winners, and it seemed to pay off. I got a few new subscribers, some people with some good comments. I also forgot to mention Friday I'm going to have Pete with Pete's Takes, Dolphins superfan. He's going to be on. I'm kind of excited about that. It's always better to do the show with a guest. Don't get me wrong. Everybody tunes in just to see me. No, I'm kidding. But I've had, Keys when he's on, he's fantastic. Gooch, the talent, when he's on, he's fantastic. Riley, when he's on, he came on, and I told him, it's like, normally it goes 2 hours. He's like, I think I'm going to do one. And then after 2 hours, he's having a good time. And it's because of you guys. You guys put in some great comments and asked some fantastic questions. And you should. He's by the way, making a killing on sports betting. So. But yeah, this was a good video, and when the metrics for me, like 1,000. I mean, I released it at noon, so I mean it was 1,000 after several hours. That's huge for me, and really, 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 really good for me. Yeah, so thank you. With JMO, I'm okay. A touchdown every 12 targets seems like a good ratio. My issue with JMO is he's truly a Z. Everybody wants him to be an X. He's a body catcher, and golf can't hit him in stride. And by the way, Funk, this is the whole point of making this channel is to have inside information, because I didn't know that. I actually, so by the way, what you mean as a Z is, so for what Funk means, and if, correct me if I'm wrong, is that an X receiver is on the outside, the Z receiver is on the inside, and Jameson is more of a slot dude. But he's a body catcher. And that's the thing I didn't really like about Jameson Williams. He didn't seem to have great hands, but he's one of those guys, if you can get him the ball in some space, just watch out. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if because Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy that could really pan out, because Laporta's going to be your number 2 guy. All right, and you got Amon-Ra. What a great receiver he turned out to be. Remember, I kept on telling you his ceiling's a number 2. I'm dead wrong. He's a guy I wouldn't be surprised if you move him, because I'm looking at the way the Lions are built right now, and I mean, Jameson Williams is a guy you remember he's the 12th overall pick in the draft. He's a guy you might be able to get a 2 for, and you might be able to do something different. So I'm looking at the way your receivers are, and I mean, do you really need that guy? So, should the Bears have gone after receiver or O-line in addition to edge? Remember, they used the 10th overall pick on the right tackle. They thought that was the more important spot. I forgot who their left tackle is, and he's just okay. As far as going after a receiver, I think that they are just I'll be honest with you, the Sweat pick, it kind of baffles me, because last year they traded for Claypool, who's in fucking Miami right now. And they gave up that pick. It ended up being the first pick in the second round. Right now, that pick's number 35. Joey Porter Jr. would be perfect on the Bears. Instead, he's now, well, he earned a starting job now with the Steelers. So I don't get it. I really don't get it because Montez Sweat, if he leaves in free agency, and by the way, if I'm Montez Sweat, what the fuck am I doing in Chicago? I'm not even thinking about trying to stop the run. I'm really not. If I'm Montez Sweat, all I'm trying to do is rush after the passer. It could be goal line, and I'm not even trying to make a tackle. I'm trying to get the stats. I'm trying to get the stats. I'm trying to say stats and sacks at the same time. So the stacks. Because once he hits free agency, he's going to make a lot of money. By the way, if you don't remember, Montez Sweat ran that 4.41 at the combine. I was like, holy shit. For those of you that watched Last Chance U, he was one of those guys that played at the was it EC or was it EMCC, Eastern Mississippi? Yeah, he was one of those guys. One of those guys. I honestly, to tell you the truth, I remember running that 40 time and watching him. I'm like, why don't you want to play tight end? I mean, 6'5", 270, runs a 4.41. I mean, why don't you play? The funny thing is about Sweat is he's not a natural pass rusher. He doesn't have a lot of bend. He's just a size speed guy. But if Chicago doesn't sign him to a long-term deal, it's just stupid. Just stupid move. And to be honest with you, I think the Bears are a team that could just explode everything this offseason. But if I'm the Bears, here's the drill. Are you sure that's your guy? Are you really sure that's your guy? Are you going into the 2024 draft and going, yeah, we're good at quarterback? Are you sure? If I'm the Bears, I wouldn't have done anything because, you got some draft picks. That's great. But why are you giving up the 35th pick in the draft for a guy who's going to probably only play 8 games? It didn't make any sense. And one pride says, I guess you're kind of right about the Lions. That's why you tune in. By the way, I'm sorry for getting behind on comments, but that's why you tune in, because you're a fan. You can't be unbiased about your team, so you tune into a show like this. Now, I'm going to be biased towards the Chiefs, of course, but you tune in here, and I can give you kind of the real deal about your team. So, Colt McCoy, that would have been perfect. Hey, man, you enjoy your work, man. Funk, it's so damn good to see you, man. By the way, teams views Young as an undisciplined player. Yeah, I did too. Denver, I have no idea. Yeah, I don't get it. I make no sense. If I'm a Lions fan, I'm looking at the Bears, I'm kind of laughing. And if I'm Montez Sweat, like I said, I'm just trying to sack the quarterback every single play. I mean, the Donovan Peoples-Jones move, that's actually a win for both teams. And the reason why I say that is Cleveland has David Bell. They traded for Elijah Moore. They got Amari Cooper. They really weren't using him. And he didn't really grow with the team. I think his first year might have been his best. So it works out perfect. Yeah. And Rivers should be fired too. Who's Rivers? Drawing a blank. Maybe Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. It's going to be fun. There's going to be some. I'm looking through here, and every year there's always a couple NFL jobs. So it looks like there's going to be about 4. There's going to be a few surprises too. I was hoping Atlanta would have traded my boy Pitts to a team that uses tight. Oh God, I love Pitts, and I agree with you, Denver Gator. He looked great in the Chiefs uniform. But I think the plan with Atlanta is that it's really more of a quarterback. Excuse me. I think it's a quarterback issue. I really do. I think like once you get your quarterback situation ironed out, and that's a team that may be looking to draft a quarterback this year too, or if they are set in on Desmond Ridder. we'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts, phenomenal talent. We were going to do a video draft time. Who's better, Pitts or Bowers? But Bowers tore his ACL. So, I kind of had a feeling after, you know what, if they lost to the Chiefs and they're 2-6, and then I could see them making some moves. Max Crosby, God, what an awesome player he is, and his career is just complete shit. I didn't realize. I knew he grew up in Michigan, but like they were talking about all the similarities between him and Hutchinson, and it's like, oh God. If Andrew Borthy comes back from injury next year, the team that drafted him might have a 10-year starter. Yeah. Andrew Borthy, if you're not aware, he was the USC guard. I think I had a second-round grade. Most people had a second-round grade, played tackle and guard, but going to be a guard, and he tore his ACL, I think, at the pro day, if I'm correct. The Ravens chose him in the 6th round, redshirt pick. Excuse me. And he probably is. He's probably going to be a 10-year starter. Yeah. No, not yet. No. If you sent them to me, I haven't seen them yet. Usually what I do is right before the show, I do some show. Believe it or not, I actually do some show prep before I come on. Believe it or not. So, isn't that a great game? I'm going to be live for that game. So, depending on where you're at in the country, it'll be 8:30 in Kansas City, but I'll be doing play-by-play and live. So, of course, I watched the picks video. I thought it was awesome. Also good to know I'm going to get laid. Yes. 98% more likely to get laid if you subscribe to my channel. That's science. He was a risk. Yeah, the Voorhees, a 6th-round pick out of USC that Baltimore. Yeah, Baltimore did a great draft. So I don't know if I'd be listening to the whole thing. I'll keep playing the background sound off, not just to drive up. Thank you. Yeah, I need to watch hours, man. Yeah. Donovan Peoples-Jones is your X, Amon-Ra's your slot, and then Laporta actually can do a little bit of both. But it'll be interesting because keep in mind, I think Ben Johnson after the season is going to leave. And what are you going to do? Are you going to promote Mark Brunell? That's kind of the most common practice if you promote from within. It kind of seems like that would be kind of a Detroit thing to do. You could bring somebody outside. Depending on what happens. Like, for example, let's say the Saints blow up their team, which is possible. Pete Carmichael, who has a really good relationship, he's offensive coordinator for the Saints for the last 20 years. That might be a guy. For some reason or another, he's never been interested in a head coaching job. I think after being the Saints offensive coordinator for that long, he should have gotten an offer. So DPJ is definitely our second best wide receiver. Come on, can we... The Sun God will be in the Hall of Fame and the best wide receiver in Lions history. Well, I'd calm down there, Perry. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, you still got Megatron, and I think you'd have to put him. I think he's got to play at least another 5 years before you start talking about being Hall of Famer, because there's a log jam at wide receiver. Otis Taylor to Chiefs. I think this year Cliff Branch finally got in. Art Monk. There's so many great wide receivers in NFL history who are not in the Hall of Fame yet. So got some more time. The Sweat move doesn't make any sense. Yeah, well, here's the deal. Okay, so I'm gonna read both these comments here. That's the whole thing. Why? If the Bears want him long term, they're going to have to pay him a lot of money, and they have money. That's great. But if I'm the Bears, I really need to build through the draft, and that's if I have Justin Fields as my guy, and I don't think he is. In heaven, there is no beer. That's why they drink it in Iowa. Yet the heavens are rejoicing as Iowa offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz has been told. Yeah. If you. Um, I would, I agree with you, Keys, that when I heard the story about they're not going to bring him Back, it wouldn't surprise me. Kurt LaFrance has been, I think it's all levels, but no coach in college football has a longer tenure than LaFrance. I think it's like 22 years. And how appealing is Iowa? No disrespect, but like let's say LaFrance steps down, right? I mean, how appealing is Iowa? I mean, it's now in the big 46. I mean, let's say Harbaugh leaves for the NFL. Let's just say he left. So Michigan will be the top spot. That's a big time recruit. But I mean, how do you sell a head coaching job at Iowa? I mean, where are you tapping into? I mean, Iowa doesn't get the 4 and 5 star guys at all. I mean, you don't have the ability like USC or I mean, you can even say UCLA or Michigan State. Those guys can recruit globally. Iowa can't. Who do you get to take over that job? Who would want to? It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Yeah, but I think both step down. And honestly, if I was LaFrance, just for fun, I'd want to take over it. If I'm, what it would be funny if he goes to Michigan State. I would love that. Yeah. What are the most intense positive replacement metaphor for thrilled? One Pride 40 is the Chiefs at 32. That's what I'm expecting. Lions are 1, Chiefs 32. Except for those who are afraid Kurt will retire at the end of the season with lose stability. Yeah. That's kind of what I expect to happen. And who do you get? Who do you get? Because I mean, I was a hard place to recruit at. It's just a hard place. And with USC and UCLA joining, I mean, I think Matt Rule's going to snatch up a lot of the Midwest. It'll be interesting to see how he recruits. I have no idea because I know he was at Philly. I know he's at Baylor. But he was able to recruit players to both those places, which at the time, I mean, Temple's the hardest place in college, probably top 5 or bottom 5, depending on how you look at it, place to recruit at. Baylor was coming off of like the semi-death penalty of the sex scandal. And so I'm fully expecting Nebraska has resources. I don't think Iowa does. So that's possible. Did Dan say like, no? He should get targets, but he might take some time to get chemistry down. Megatron was a freak of nature. Biggest winner was 49ers. I could see that. I love what the Niners did. I kind of assume that Nick Bosa and Chase Young are friends because they played together at Ohio State, and Chase Young said that he mirrored a lot of what he did after Young. Both were the 2nd overall pick in the draft. The negative is that you probably are not signing him long term. All right, you're not signing him long term. If I'm Chase Young and I do well and San Francisco can get to a Super Bowl and they look like they're going to be super, they really can't. I mean, look at what they've done already. They gave Bosa an arm and a leg. They gave Samuel an arm and a leg. They gave CMC an arm and a leg. Kittle's the highest paid tight end or actually he's not anymore. It's Hawkinson. Trent Williams makes a lot of money. They have to figure out how to pay Purdy sooner than later. Where's the money for a guy like Chase Young? But if I'm Chase Young, I might say, you know what, God, I can get double-digit sacks. I can win a lot of games. Why don't I just hang out here and I'll take less money. But I would be shocked if he did that. So even though it is the 49ers for this year, I don't see it working out long term. I think Chase Young is going to go somewhere else. And if Sweat goes anywhere else, then the Bears just, Jesus Christ. I don't know who that is. Tanner Egestrand to replace Ben Johnson. That's interesting. Chop Robinson makes more sense than Montez Sweat. It seems like it doesn't make any sense to me, man. Bill's got a nice deal. They did. I'm going to talk about that one. I got all the trades down. I've just been going through the comments, but no college football coach has been there longer, and I mean he's done an A+ job. There was rumors for a while that he was going to get an NFL job, and I don't think he wants to. If I'm the Friends, I would. I always like it when coaches do this out of spite. I think it makes college football more interesting. But if I'm Iowa, who am I getting to replace a guy like LaFrance? I mean, that's a tough one, man. They should be in your top 10. I don't think U of M is an attractive job like it used to be. Well, the reason why it's attractive is that here's why it's attractive. No limits on money. All right, you could pay. You could be the highest paid coach in NFL and college football, right? You can give a guy anywhere from 12 to 15 million. That's number one why it is attractive. They recruit nationwide. They're going to lose a lot of players to the NFL this year, including their quarterback. I'm hearing he's a first round. I don't see it personally, but I'm hearing that some people think McCarthy's a first round quarterback. I don't see it. But there's a lot of talent, you have a lot of money, and you have a lot of resources. I really do. I think top 10 program to coach at would be Michigan because you have resources, you have players, you have stadium, you basically have everything. The only thing I would say, and I don't know because I've never been to Ann Arbor, is location. And the reason why I say that is that I remember Mark Sanchez was going to sign at Ohio State, and then the coach says, "Yeah, just think about playing Michigan in the snow." And Sanchez never played in snow before. He goes, I saw his interview. He's like, I was all ready to sign, and then he said snow, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to play in the snow. So he signed to USC. It was like a place like Alabama or Florida State, Texas, California. I mean, those might be slightly more appealing places, but Michigan's top 10 place to coach at. And there would be a long list of coaches. There might even be a guy who leaves the NFL and goes there. So, yeah. But I honestly, he probably should be paid more. 49ers were definitely not winners. Slasher, welcome, brother. It's a rental. It's a rental, and if he pans out and he stays healthy, I mean, 49ers are going to be dangerous, but it only really pans out if they win. I mean, I don't see Chase Young staying there long term. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go over all the trades and talk about it. Is it the Eagles? The Eagles gave up. I didn't even, because the backup player, I didn't really think. They traded good capital for positions already as strongest link. They have a really bad secondary. So here's what they're doing, Slasher, is instead of addressing the secondary, because they lost some players in free agency, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we're going to go ahead and just get a rotation of defensive linemen. Does that sound familiar? Because that's what the Eagles do. It's that the Eagles have better secondary. They're going to say, you know what? We can't fix the secondary, at least not right away, because that team set up to play a zone defense. All right. And they've been switching to man. And the main reason is that they've been switching to man is that they haven't been able to get the pressure that they were normally able to get. Chase Young's a rental, keep in mind. And if Chase, I can't, it's hard for me to tell a guy who could be really, 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 really good to say, hey, take less money. But maybe Chase Young after the season says, you know what, I'll sign a 1 year, $8 million deal, or 1 year, $10 million, whatever. Play in San Francisco, get a dozen or so sacks and try. So 49ers D-line is no joke. He might get Young paid. I mean, Young's going to be a guy, and that's the whole thing. You got Sweat, and you got. See, here's the deal. I really thought Washington would pay Sweat and let Chase Young go. I'm a little surprised they let both go, but when I look at all these draft picks, if they're not sold on, here's the thing: if Washington's sold on Sam Howell, right, and they get 2 picks in the second round plus a high first round draft pick, they could do so many different things. Nothing wrong with improving a strength. Young and Bosa, Hargrove on the middles. Yeah, I can see that. Can't really say who's won yet. Too early to tell. Nobody has played. I'm gonna go over all the trades. Well, actually, I'm gonna be on. I'm gonna go over the 7 trades. And I'll give you pros and cons of each here. I've just been having fun reading the comments. My favorite thing to do is just read comments. Slasher, if you haven't already, make sure that you watch my video. So. The interesting thing to me is the decision was made by Iowa's interim athletic director, middle of the season, interim athletic director. Oh, wow. I didn't know they had an interim athletic director. So it's one of those jobs because I'm trying to think here. Notre Dame's another program they recruit nationally. They no limit on resources. Texas, unlimited resources. Alabama, unlimited resources. USC, unlimited resources. You used to be able to say that about Oregon, but Oregon's coach left to take the Miami job. I don't think Miami's that way. I want to tell you Florida's that way, but I really don't think that's the case. Georgia's got a massive amount of resources as well. I mean, it's hard to say, but Michigan, I'd say top 10. I mean, it depends. I mean, you're going to be on TV. You have unlimited resources. You recruit nationally. It's good. 49ers don't really need depth, at least just not for what they paid for Chase Young. Well, what you're giving up is right now it's let me see here. Right now it would be pick number 93. I mean, you make this move. It's a 3rd round pick, and at first I thought this was a compensatory pick, but it looks like it's going to be a 3rd round pick. It's going to be a low pick. Right now I think it's 93 if I'm correct. So if the season were to end today, that 3rd round pick, yeah, it would be pick number 93. I mean, that it's a low 3rd round pick, and you're getting a guy that could maybe get you to the Super Bowl. And that's what you're banking on. Remember, the Rams gave up a 2nd and a 3rd for Von Miller. That's kind of what you're looking at. So, yeah. But again, it's a rental pick, and I mean that's something San Francisco has done over the years. And if you're San Francisco, I mean, more than likely you're probably using a pick either 1st, 2nd, or 4th on that defensive line anyway, because that's the way they're building their team up. So if they wanted depth, they're going to sign guys off scouts. Young's going to be they're going to just kind of rotate him in at first. The defense that Wilkes is going to run now, the pressures is on Wilkes because you have Robert Saleh, and he's building a world-class defense with the Jets. The head coach for the Houston Texans, I'm drawing a blank on his name, D'Amico Ryans. That Houston Texans team is going to take some time, but the defense has really just kind of dropped off. So, I mean, Wilkes is a guy that, hey, I thought he got a bad deal. With Carolina, I thought that he did a good enough job that Carolina should have said, you know what, let's just give you a chance. But they didn't want to do that to happen. So, oh, yeah, if the 49ers win the Super Bowl, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 49ers just trying to get Bosa some help. Don't forget, they just grabbed Randy Gregory also last ditch. Yeah, they got Randy Gregory. They got Chase Young. They got Bosa. They got Hargrove. that I mean, the secondary has some issues. The linebackers are awesome. But I mean, I don't hate it. It's kind of funny because the Seahawks, they got Leonard Williams. And it's kind of funny because for years I said that you need three things to win the Super Bowl. You need a quarterback, you need a left tackle, and an edge rusher. And Keith is like, well, Dan, my favorite thing to do is argue with you. No, he doesn't do that. But he said, I think almost interior pressure is more important with the way football is changed. And I argued with him, like, no, you need an edge rusher. Edge rusher is more important. He says, what about Chris Jones? Well, that's an exception. You get a guy like Chris Jones or Aaron Donald, but I think he's right. I think you get like that interior pressure, then you don't need that. What might be better, get an elite defensive tackle or an elite edge rusher? And I'm getting to think that it may be getting an elite inside guy. And that's what I like about the Leonard Williams trade is that you gave up a second this year and a fifth next year. By the way, the Giants picks number 5, 37, 55, and 69 in the draft. If you're not sold on Daniel Jones, that gives you plenty of opportunities to move up. And you also have Thibodeau and Ojulari, both of them been battling injuries. Remember, you gave Dexter Lawrence all that money, so that's kind of a win-win for both teams. But if you're Seattle's winning the NFC West right now. A couple of weeks ago, we were thinking San Francisco's the best team in football. Now we're like, oh no. So I don't know. We're going to find out, but yeah. Montez Sweat was drafted by my Saints. So you're saying there was I can't remember the trade, but I will say this. I just that move just doesn't make a lot of sense. You got to sign them, and I don't know if they can do that. That's true, but the Eagles have 2 All-Pros playing at both their corner positions. It just seems like they jumped the gun when they could use that draft capital to help their secondary. Well, I mean, you could have got Rasul Douglas. I mean, and actually, I think he would have worked out pretty good. But the way the 49ers are built is with that defensive line, which is very similar to Philly. But Philly, I know you got more secondary players. I've been saying for a while that in the NFC you have San Francisco and Philly, and then you have the second tier, which is Dallas and Detroit. And it kind of seems like with that trade, it still pans out. Now, do I think that this puts them over Philly? No, I don't. But giving up a late third round pick to get an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, I don't hate that. Could you have given up a third round pick and gotten a corner? Maybe. Could you have said that corner's more important? Possibly. But the way the 49ers have been building their team is they've been saying, look, we got these world-class linebackers. We're going to just have this brutal defensive line. We got world-class linebackers, and we'll just have some guys. Because on offense, we got to pay Samuel, Kittle, CMC, and eventually Purdy. So, by the way, that's the one trade we won't talk about because we talked about it already, and I do like that. I didn't know that. 49ers are one of the few teams that can develop late-round talent. Purdy, I forgot about Hufanga, Warner, Kittle, all third-round picks. Yeah, Kittle's a fifth-round pick. I wasn't going to put a letter grade on it. I was just going to kind of go over it and give you kind of both sides perspective. But God, that's actually not a bad idea, Perry. I kind of maybe I should have. But no, I wasn't going to give a letter grade. I was just going to kind of go over these. I'm going to start with Leonard Williams to Seattle. Remember they drafted Boy Mafe a couple of years ago. He's a guy who's starting to come on. They switched to a 3-4, but they've been still having some issues. They brought back Bobby Wagner. Nobody's going to call him the best middle linebacker in NFL history, but he's starting to make a case to be one of the best linebackers in NFL history. You got some nice pieces in the secondary. This is a situation, though. I feel good about Seattle signing Leonard Williams. That's why I like that move. And if I'm the Giants, this is a good move because you're looking at your team. You're not making the playoffs. And even if you do make the playoffs, what are you going to do? You have a lot of holes on that Giants team. You signed Dexter Lawrence. You got a couple of young edge rushers. You got young pieces in the secondary. This is a win-win for both teams. If I'm the Giants, I'm right now I'm picking 5th. And then I get 2 picks in the second round plus a high 3rd-round draft pick. I get my quarterback. I got a lot of youth on that defense. So I don't. So what Perry asked a great questions: is Williams a rental or is he signed for a few years? I personally feel because you gave up a 2nd and a 5th, the plan is to sign Williams for a while. I thought he was under contract. I should have looked it up if he was under contract or not, but he's going to stay in Seattle. And, Pete Carroll's a defensive coordinator. That's how he made his bones before he became an NFL and then, of course, USC head coach. So he's going to stay in Seattle for a while. And I really like this move. But I like it for the Giants, too, because I need some draft capital because Daniel Jones isn't the dude, right? He's not the dude. And I think that what you need to do is that I think you need a quarterback and then you also need some help at receiver. You may want to go through free agency. I remember they did that before. They got Galladay and that didn't work out. If I'm the Giants, this is a win. Hey, look, it's not your year. You have to figure out what to do with Barkley. I think you got some major holes at quarterback as well. So, no, Williams is going to stay. I don't know the exact situation of the contract, though. Seattle defense is looking like they're building up something really good. And it's a 3-year, $105 million deal for Geno Smith. By NFL standards, it's a pretty decent contract. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's just a matter of time before he's going to be the number 1 receiver. You got some good running backs. You got some young pieces on the offensive line. I like what Seattle's doing, man. This I think it's a win for both teams, and I like Leonard Williams on this defense. I think he's going to be there for a while. Talked about it quite a bit. Montez Sweat to Chicago, 2nd-round draft pick. Right now, it's 35th pick in the draft. If Chicago signs Sweat to a long-term deal, I'm good with it. This makes no sense though, because if I'm Chicago, I have so many questions. Is Justin Fields your guy? Number one. That's first and foremost. If he is your guy, I think you need to get him some more help on the offensive line, and he needs more help on defense. You got to figure a way to pay Sweat long term, or else this is just such a terrible, terrible move. I don't like this trade at all. If I'm Washington, I already read this off, but 11, 35, 43, 75, 93, 108. Can you imagine if Washington likes what they see out of Sam Howell? I mean, if you got all those draft picks and you don't need a quarterback, that's a team that can really build themselves up. I don't get this move at all. If I'm a Lions fan, I'm kind of chuckling right now. Touched base on this earlier. Joshua Dobbs at Minnesota for conditional 2024 7th, could be a 6. I think both teams lose. I don't get why Arizona wants to get rid of this guy, because they didn't want Colt McCoy, who knew the offense better, at least in my opinion. I know you got a new head coach, but Colt McCoy, I remember watching him in preseason. I thought that, no, he's not going to win as many games. He's not a threat to take over the job, but that's who you want. Just bringing a guy like Joshua Dobbs, and he didn't play bad. Now you're going with the 5th-round rookie, and you're going to wait for Kyler Murray to come back. It doesn't make any damn sense. What do you think of Sam Howell? I like Sam Howell quite a bit. My problem is that when I look at Washington, Ron Rivera is the general manager and head coach, and you have a new owner coming in. Last year, all three of the other teams in the NFC East all made the playoffs. Dallas and Philly look like playoff teams. The Giants do not. So if I'm Washington, am I keeping Ron Rivera around? If let's just say he stays, they're going to bring in a front office guy. I mean, I don't see him staying as general manager. If Ron Rivera stays, and you like Eric Bieniemy, and he's going to stay as offensive coordinator, which are huge ifs, then I like Sam Howell quite a bit. Here's my problem. Washington's going to bring in, I think they're Adam Bomb the coaching staff. I think they want to bring in a general manager. I think they want to bring in a coach. And I think that they want to use all these draft picks to draft a quarterback. Now, I know it blew up with Dwayne Haskins. They gave, was it first round draft pick for Carson Wentz? That didn't work out. But usually, what do you do when you blow up a team? You get your quarterback. I like Sam Howell. If I'm Washington, by the way, the game he had against Philly, that's kind of like not indicative of what he can do. And if he plays that way for the rest of the season, they're going to win some games. Probably not make the playoffs, but they're going to win some games, and then it becomes a question. In my opinion, if I'm Washington, I would like to see them keep everything together and then use this draft pick and build around Sam Howell. Do I think it'll happen? No. What do I think of Sam Howell? I like him a lot. He's a guy that's just young. There's not a lot of tool. There's not a lot really to build around. There's a weak offensive line. McLaurin is phenomenal, but you know, what else do you have? They have a good tight end. I'm drawing a blank on his name, former quarterback. I mean, there's some things I like. I really like Sam Howell, but I really think that the one thing about the quarterback position, you need everything else to be in play, and Washington doesn't have it. And I don't think Ron Rivera and I was going to say Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy may be able to turn around, but I don't think Ron Rivera is really the type of guy. But if they keep everything intact, which I don't think they will, I would love to see them keep Sam Howell and then say, look, they at 11, you can get a defensive end, you can probably want to get a defensive tackle, get a defensive end, maybe you can get a corner, you can get wide receiver, you can do so much. I thought Minnesota would have called for Teddy to come back, or Aaron Walton, or even Wentz. That would make a lot more sense than Joshua Dobbs. I mean, it really would. To be honest with you, if I'm Minnesota, I wouldn't have even given a draft pick. And the reason why is that what are you doing? I mean, seriously, are you thinking to yourself, hey, if we get into the playoffs, we can run the whole thing? I don't get. It's funny because if I'm Detroit. Right, I'm sitting here and I'm snickering because Green Bay gave up a corner. Not a bad move either by Green Bay. I'll go over that. That was the last one I had. I watched Chicago do something kind of goofy with Sweat unless they give him a long-term deal. I'm watching Green Bay get rid of a player, and I'm watching Minnesota look like they don't know what they're doing. And you know, I'm kind of just chuckling. What do you think about Josh Allen getting mad? Do you think he wants out? As far as the getting mad comment, I'm not really sure what you mean. Do I think he wants out? If you're talking about Josh Allen, no, God, no. I think the Vikings general manager is overrated. I mean, the thing is that you can't really. It's here's the deal in the NFL, you just can't tank, and lots of fans think that you're tanking. Lots of people think Arizona was tanking. I remember tank for Tua. It just doesn't happen that way. It really doesn't. But I mean, when I look at the Minnesota Vikings, I'm not really sure what you mean here. This comment, I'm assuming you mean Josh Allen getting mad. I'm not familiar with that. And then the general manager is overrated, or the defensive tackle from Washington. Okay, so here's what Washington did: is they signed Josh Allen. Got Josh Allen on my mind here. I can't think of his name here, but both of them, by the way, played at Alabama. So what they did is they gave both a ton of money to both defensive tackles. All right. Now I thought that what Washington would do would trade one of them. As far as him getting mad, no, and he's under contract. They're not going anywhere. The defensive tackles is what Washington's building that defense around. And then what you have is you're just going to have some guys. They have all this draft capital. Jonathan Allen. That's what I was trying to think of. But you're building your defense around those beautiful defensive tackles. And like he's pointed out, it's more important in today's game to have interior pressure and exterior pressure. And that's what Washington decided. They're like, hey, you know what? We got these studs on the inside. We'll draft or go through free agency, get some guys on the outside. Sam Howell's going to be a question. Coaching is going to be a question. Front office is going to be a question. But the one thing that Washington does have is a lot of draft picks. And they got a guy in Sam Howell that may or may not be the guy. I would love if I could do everything with Washington. What I would do is at the end of this year, I would try to figure out how to build this team around Sam Howell. That's what I would do. Are they going to do that? No. I'm almost positive they're going to use this draft capital to go after a quarterback. By the way, Caleb Williams is from the DC area. So, the Vikings GM is over his head. That's kind of what it feels like. I mean, it's kind of funny. I said the same thing about Matt Nagy. The worst thing that happened to him his first year was to go 12-4 and win Coach of the Year because that was a team rebuilding. And I remember when Kevin O'Connell took over last year, they were the favorite to win the division. I'm like, well, I mean, Green Bay's there. How are they the favorite? Green Bay won 13 games, but it didn't work. So yeah, and here you are. You're gonna have a bad year. I mean, if I'm the Vikings, and it's kind of a shame because I really thought that Justin Jefferson would come back. I thought that they're like a 9-10 win team. They're a team that can sneak into the playoffs. Okay, I mean, right now, here's what you're looking at. All right, you have San Francisco and Seattle. Doesn't matter. One team's going. One team's winning the division. One team's going to wild card. Same thing, Philly and Dallas. Who's team number 7? Now, don't get me wrong. I would love it. Detroit gets a 2 seed. Minnesota gets a 7 seed. How much fun is that? And who is the 7 team in the NFC? Is it the loser of the NFC South? When I say loser, team finished second. Is that the team? Is it Minnesota? Can the Rams do it? I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at. But I mean, let's say you even win a game in the playoffs, just like the Giants did last year. What did the Giants do in the divisional round? They lost by 400 points. Actually, I think the score was 37-7 or something like that. So, one big proof is look at the Eagles' edge rushers in concrete block. By the way, in case you're not aware, Keys absolutely loves Orlando Brown Jr. That is his favorite player. He is wearing an Orlando Brown Jr. t-shirt right now. So, by the way, the Chiefs' loss was partly on me not wearing my Chiefs shirt on Red Friday. And it was also partly on Keys wearing his black PM15 jersey, which I'm almost positive that Keys burned. So, yeah, I did notice that. And by the way, that's the biggest reason. I believe that's also the biggest reason why the Patriots fell apart, is that they weren't able to fix that interior. They remember they drafted a Cole Strange. He was kind of a reach, but they really liked him. I forget who it was in the interior. They had some injuries on the offensive line, but yeah, Joe Thuney, there's a reason the Chiefs gave him $80 million. So, Dan, give us a team in every division that should have made a deal, and give us the deal you have liked to see them make. Oh God, a team in every division. There's really not a player, and there's really not a cap. It's not possible, but I would have liked seeing the Rams make a move on the offensive line. That one I would have liked to see that, because I think the Rams, believe it or not, could be in position to do something. God, let me break out a get one. So I would like seeing, they can't do it cap wise. Okay. But I would like seeing the Rams make a move offensive line. I don't know who would be available off the top of my head. The only player I could think of, and I think due to injury, they're not able to do anything, is the Jets left tackle, Mekhi Becton. They would have liked to move him. So, in the NFC South, Dalvin Cook to Tampa Bay, that would have been perfect. I mean, you have this offense that's struggling. Rashad White, is a really decent player, but God, I mean, you got some problems on the offensive line, but you put Dalvin Cook in Tampa Bay, and I think that you have a chance, because right now you got Atlanta. Atlanta's 4-4. The Saints are 3-4. I'm sorry, Atlanta's 4-4. The Saints are 4-4. Tampa Bay's 3-4. You give the Bucs a little bit of offense and a guy like Dalvin Cook, and you can win that division. And here's the thing, that's the position that you need to get help on. I actually thought Tampa Bay would make a move for I was thinking Zach Moss, who would be a nice compare contrast, or Rashad White, More of a guy who's actually just like Dalvin Cook, but that would have made a lot of sense. In the NFC North, the only thing I would have really done is Dobbs just didn't make a lot of sense. If you're going to go with a veteran, go with a veteran. So Seahawks, Rams. The Seahawks actually are on top of the division. So the way it would work is Seattle right now. Actually, let's do this here. If the playoffs were to start today, here's how the NFC picture would be. Philly would have the 1 seed. Detroit would have the 2 seed. Keep in mind, Seattle's had a bye. Detroit hasn't. So it's listed because Detroit's 6-2 and Seattle's 5-2, but Seattle has the head-to-head tiebreaker. So that's why Detroit's 2, Seattle's 3. Atlanta would be 4. San Francisco would be 6. All right. So that would be a lot of fun. Oh, Seattle versus San Francisco in the playoffs. How much fun would that be? By the way, all these wild card games would be fantastic. Atlanta would host Dallas. That would be fun. Seattle would host San Francisco, and Detroit would host Minnesota. How good is that? How good is that? Who are the head coach that could be fired at the end of the year? Oh God, there's a lot. I think Eberflus with Chicago is still on the hot seat. Arthur Smith has to make the playoffs, head coach of Atlanta. I'll be honest with you. Even though they dumped a lot of players and it's not his fault, Jonathan Gannon for the Cardinals could still be on the hot seat. They've done this before. If Arizona goes 1-16, which is possible, he could go. I don't know how many of you saw it, but my boy Bufa predicted that Bill Belichick, this would be his last year in New England. They have the worst record in the AFC. I don't think it would happen, but could it happen? Sure. I hate to say it. I've been arguing against it, but McDaniels, that's a guy who could be gone. I think Staley for the Chargers is gone. And I'll give you a name that even though like right now they're a playoff team, Stefanski with Cleveland, and it's just that the reason why is I think that the Deshaun Watson offense and what Stefanski wants to do just doesn't make any sense. They just they're not working together, and I could see Cleveland making a move. There's several coaches I think that could be on hot seat. Staley with the Chargers, I have a hard time picturing him returning. He's probably number one. Riviera with Washington. I'll be honest, Frank Reich, unless he gets things turned around quickly in Carolina, he could be a one and done too. And it's been done before. I know it's rare, but I mean, I could see it. Brian Dable, the coach with the Giants, I think he'll get a pass, but it wouldn't surprise me. Was it? I can't think of his first name. O'Connell, I think it is. The Green Bay Packers. He's another guy that could be gone. So, Kansas City is the number one team. So, for those of you who don't know, there's the log jam right now in the AFC. 4 teams are 6-2. 2 of them, Kansas City and Miami, play in Germany. That's going to be a fun one. Jacksonville and Baltimore. I think Jacksonville has a bye this week. Drawing a blank here. Jacksonville has a bye, and I think Baltimore. Yeah, Jacksonville has a bye, and I forgot who Baltimore plays off the top of my head. Baltimore's in a fun one. There's several really, really good games. Seattle at Baltimore is going to be fun. I mean, Thursday night is going to be an entertaining game. I know a lot of people may not think it, but I do. I can't wait for it, actually. Tennessee at Pittsburgh, that's going to be a fun one. Miami, Kansas City, a fun one. I'm actually looking forward to these games, even though it doesn't really have playoff implications, but I kind of want to see the Rams in Green Bay and Washington at New England. I kind of want to see those games. I'm a junkie. But, I mean, the afternoon game, Dallas at Philly. Oh, God, who doesn't want to see Dallas at Philly? I mean, I'm an AFC guy, and I'm excited for that. And then Sunday night, Buffalo at Cincinnati. And then Monday night, Chargers at Jets. That's going to be – I mean, these are good games, man. These are a lot of good games. I don't know if I should be rooting for the Bills or Bengals Sunday night. Maybe a 0-0 tie in overtime where it's easy. I'm just looking forward to a good game. It is going to be a good game. Go through the trades here a little bit. Ezra Cleveland to Jacksonville for a 2024 6th-round pick. It's nice depth. That's another thing. Minnesota's going to ship off an offensive lineman who started, but then they're in pick. Minnesota's doing some weird shit. I didn't realize this, but Walker Little, who played left tackle for Jacksonville when they played in the playoffs against the Chiefs. Now he was playing right tackle, and they moved him inside the guard. Apparently, he's injured. Because I was thinking to myself, Harrison, who's been kind of struggling a little bit at tackle, I thought maybe they'd move Little out to right tackle. But I kind of like what Jacksonville's doing here. It's some offensive line depth. I mean, look at the division or look at the AFC overall. Look at the teams you're going to be going against. I mean, Baltimore, good defense. Kansas City, good defense. Held you 9 points earlier in the season. Cincinnati, good defense. So Jacksonville, Ezra Cleveland's former 2nd-round pick out of Boise, a guy I really liked, but he's been banged up. I think he was inactive last week, so. If you didn't get Dobbs, I would have really liked this. Okay, let's get some extra draft picks. build something. Because remember last year in the draft, Minnesota only had, I think, 4 or 5 picks. So I talked about this. Donovan Peoples-Jones to Detroit for a 2025 6. I think it's a win for both teams. You made the trade for Elijah Moore. David Bell's out playing Donovan Peoples-Jones, young player. An extra draft pick for a guy you really weren't using. I like the move. It's one of those rare win for both teams. We talked about this quite a bit already, but Chase Young to San Francisco for a 2024 third-round draft pick. I like Washington because you get 2 picks in round. You have 2 picks in rounds 2 and 3, and then you're also going to get a high first-round draft pick. And the reason why I like this is because I could literally see this trade happening. First, second, third, 2025 first-round draft pick to move up in the draft. I literally could see that happening. Caleb Williams is from DC. You have a new ownership. You got to do something. It kind of makes sense. I would like to see Sam Howell get a chance, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think these moves are designed for 1, 2, 3, and 1 next year to try to get your guy. And that's kind of what it feels like. So, Chase Young and Sweat, great. We got our tackles. Linebackers are okay. Your defensive minded. By the way, Washington's done this before. They start off slow and then end hot. But we're going to talk about this during draft time. But don't be surprised if we see 1, 2, and 3. Because you have an extra second and you have an extra third. So you get your quarterback and you still get a second and a third. You lose your number 1 for next year, but that's okay. Get your quarterback and you can still build your team. I mean, seriously, a 1, 2, 3, and a 1. For maybe Chicago. Remember, Chicago is Carolina's first-round pick. The one trade that we didn't talk about, Rasul Douglas to this was fun. I had to kind of figure this out, but Rasul Douglas and a 5th-round pick to Buffalo for their third, and I really liked what Buffalo did is because they didn't lose a draft pick, and Buffalo's going to pick low in the 3rd round, where Green Bay's going to pick high in the 5th. So it's, even though you look at 3rd and 5th, there's probably not going to be, because of compensatory picks, you're probably going to have maybe 45 to 50 picks between them. So it's not really that big of a deal. Buffalo desperately needs a corner, so it's a win for Buffalo. Rasul Douglas, not going to break the bank, but he's going to fit what you want to do in Buffalo pretty well. Green Bay, the defense is good. They signed Rashawn Gary to a lot of money. Rasul Douglas is a guy. I mean, he's a starter, but he's not your number 1 guy. You're looking at yourself and you're going, okay, we can't do it this year. Hey, look, we're not as good as the Lions. We're not making the playoffs. So here's what you're looking at. You have, as of right now, as of today, Green Bay picks 7th. They pick 39th. They pick 48th, thanks to the Aaron Rodgers trade. You pick 71st. You pick 88th. You pick 106. 6 picks in the top 106. So if I'm Green Bay, Jordan Love isn't the guy. You could do everything humanly possible, but let's just be clear. That's not the guy. So you got a 7 top. You have a top 10 pick. You have 2 picks in the 2nd round. You have 2 picks in the 3rd round, and you have a pick in the 4th round. What did I just say? 1, 2, 3, and 1. You could do that. When will you start doing draft prospects preview? Right after the season. I don't have an exact day, but basically here's what I usually do is this year I'm going to share it with everybody, but right after the Super Bowl, I take teams 1 through 32. I just do a plus minus real fast. During the playoffs, I'll start going over mock drafts because I'll get an idea of the draft order. Right after week 18, I'll have the draft order for the remaining 18 teams. So I know what teams are picking 1 through 18. Okay. And then after the playoffs progress, I'm going to keep track. When I start doing draft prospects, we'll start going over right after the Super Bowl. We'll start going over mock drafts. I'm going to do I liked what I did last year. I did Monday morning. I did Monday drafts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on Tuesday and Friday. So what I'll do is I'll release a mock draft, and then Tuesday we'll go over it. And what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to get Luke G, because he does some really great draft prospect stuff. I'm hoping I can get keys. Maybe I can talk to talent into coming in and going over some Chiefs draft stuff. Luke G does a lot of draft content, but he focuses on the Lions. So like he's not going to be talking about players that the Lions aren't interested in, but he has some really, really, really good draft stuff. So basically, to answer your question, we'll start talking about draft prospects, playoff time, and then right after the regular season. And then I released my very first mock draft. I don't have the combine schedule, but the combine usually starts, if I'm correct, it'll usually start like on a Thursday or a Wednesday. And then over the weekend, they'll do most of them. And then Monday will be a position group left over. I'll release that, my first mock draft then, and then I'll change it next week. And every week I'll do a new mock draft. And then keep in mind, free agency will come in and play. So, but we're going to do a lot of draft stuff, and I'm really hoping I can get a lot of people in. My boy George, he's put action down on Marvin Harrison being the first non-quarterback taken in the draft, and that sounds like a smart bet. I would be shocked if he didn't collect. So I'm hoping he'll come in because he may have some really good draft betting prospects besides just Marvin Harrison. But we're going to do a lot of stuff. Last year, I think I did 7 mock draft videos, and then I went live right before the draft, and I did a live first round mock. And then this year, I had Bufa join me here at the apartment, and Luke G actually joined. He did something on his own, and then when his show ended, he came on for the last, I want to say half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm hoping I can get, like I said, I'm hoping Keys and Gooch want to get involved. I'm hoping the differences between this year and last year is last season, Bufa did the final show, the mock draft. We did it together live. It was here in Kansas City. I had some friends that were like, "Oh, you need to, do something at a bar or something." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that." It sounds good in theory, but trust me, it's not. In like my channel's not big enough to like set something up right now. Maybe down the line. But this off season, I want to get a lot more guests. I'll spit it out sooner or later. So I'm going to get some people and get some differences of opinion, and we'll go from there. I've been reaching out to different people. Like I said, Pete's takes. He'll be on Friday, and if things work out well, hopefully he'll come back on and we can do a draft show. I'm just going to recap some of these trades here. Leonard Williams to Seattle. Nice addition for the Seahawks, who are now in first place in the NFC West. Montez Sweat to Chicago. Second round pick. Second straight year. This is just, unless you sign Sweat to a long-term deal, this is terrible. Joshua Dobbs of Minnesota, another confusing one. Ezra Cleveland at Jacksonville. I like that move. I like it for both Minnesota, who needs to add some draft picks, and also really like it for Jacksonville, because Jacksonville is one of the 4 6-2 teams in the AFC, and they got to be thinking to themselves, Jacksonville's going to win that division easy, and they got to be thinking to themselves, hey, look, we got to beat Kansas City, who has a really good defense. And I mean, who are your main threats? I mean, look at all the teams in the AFC North. All of them have good defenses. Kansas City has a really good defense. I mean, AFC East, you can go with Buffalo, good defense. Jets, fantastic defense. Miami, so-so defense, but they can put up some points. Probably won't play ball control. So. Donovan Peoples-Jones to Detroit. I think a win for both teams. Cleveland wasn't really using him. They have some young talent at receiver. Remember, they traded for Elijah Moore. Amari Cooper's the number 1 guy. Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore really hit it off. So I like the move for Cleveland. I also like the move for Detroit. The one thing I'll say about it is that it kind of leads me to think that Jameson Williams pick is just going to be a bust. Chase Young to San Francisco is interesting. It's a 1-year rental. If it doesn't pan out, I have a hard time believing Chase Young's going to stay in San Francisco. I really just don't see it happening. But if San Francisco wins Super Bowl, it's worth it. And Rasul Douglas and a draft pick, the Buffalo. I'll be honest with you. It's a move. I'm looking at Green Bay as going, hey, look, we need some draft picks. And I also think that they move on from Jordan Love. So I released my NFL Week 9 picks video. Please, if you haven't already, please check it out. My power rankings video, I haven't really started it yet. I put together teams 1 through 32. I have a list. I'm toying around with just releasing like a video with a clip of 3 teams at a time, and then talking about each one. The problem with the power rankings video is that I don't want to make a 25 to 40 minute video. That's kind of been the problem, is that it's either I can do something really fast or I can do something really long. I'm trying to find a mix. So, because there's so many things I could go over, and I'm going to try it out, and ideally it'll be out tomorrow afternoon. So anyway, any final thoughts, comments, suggestions, anything at all before I end the show tonight? I'm down for it. I thought there would be a little more action in the trade deadline. There was not. For those of you who are out trick-or-treating or taking your kids out, be safe out there. Definitely do that. And don't forget, I will have Pete's Takes. Pete's Takes. He will be on the show Friday. Dolphins superfan. He has a YouTube channel. It's going to be lots of fun. Holmes panicked and took the risk on JMO. I think JMO might have been there at 32 overall. Yeah, I didn't like the trade. I thought he would be available later in the draft. Now, keep in mind, Jameer Dotson went I think it was 15th. Olave, he went 11th. So he might not have been there at 32, but I didn't at the time. I didn't like the Lions making that move, and the reason why is they're coming off a 3-win season. And I thought they needed the guy immediately. What turns out to be they really didn't. I mean, everything they've done so far has worked out. It's just Jameson Williams. I don't think is going to be a guy who's going to live up to being the 11th pick in the draft. I really do. I really think that especially if Donovan Peoples-Jones pans out, it wouldn't surprise me if they move him this offseason. When I say offseason, I mean March. I mean before the draft. And then it wouldn't surprise me if you try to get an additional draft pick and then make a move in the draft, get greedy on this draft. Because what you did last year is you had all these draft picks. When I look at the Lions, like, do you really need to have 7-8 draft picks, or can you maybe trade up and get like 5 guys that you really absolutely love. And that's kind of what I think the Lions may do. It'll be very interesting to see what they do. Home should have took a defensive player. Tell you the truth, I liked Kristen Watson. At the time, I also really liked Sky Moore. He has not panned out at all. He's been a really disappointment. He's been a big disappointment here in Kansas City, but there are several players you could have taken instead, just as a receiver. Off the top of my head, I can't think of who was available. Can't think of who was available that they could have taken at 11 or 12. I can't remember. I think it was 12. I can't think of who it was off the top of my head. I could bring out my notes, but I won't do it. But by the way, all my social media links are below. Don't forget to check out the picks video, power rankings video. I'll have it released tomorrow. I'm kind of just playing around with it. I know One Pride's looking forward to it because he has his own power rankings. And I'm kind of looking, I'm actually really excited to see his power rankings as well. So I'll have Pete Takes on Friday and nothing else. Everybody have a happy Halloween. I look forward to seeing everybody back Friday.